Most men don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they never decided. Not really. They kept one foot in the life they wanted and one foot in the life they were comfortable with, and that split killed them slowly. No explosion, no drama, just a quiet death of potential, dressed up as a reasonable life. The man who wins, the one who actually becomes dangerous in the best possible sense, is the man who made a decision so deep it changed his nervous system. That decision has a name. It's called focus. And today, you're going to understand it at a level most men never reach. You are divided. That is not an insult. That is a diagnosis. Right now, inside you there are multiple versions of yourself competing for the steering wheel. The version that wants to build something legendary. The version that wants comfort and safety. The version that still seeks approval from people who haven't built anything either. The version shaped by fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of actually succeeding and having no more excuses left. These versions pull in different directions, and the result is not balance. The result is paralysis dressed up as busyness. You scroll instead of executing. You plan instead of building. You talk about what you're going to do instead of disappearing into the work. You feel busy, but nothing moves. You feel engaged, but nothing compounds. This is the divided man, and the divided man never arrives anywhere because he is always heading in 3 directions at once. Carl Jung spent decades studying this exact fracture in the human psyche. He didn't call it laziness. He called it the unintegrated shadow, the war between who you show the world and who you actually are underneath. Jung understood that a man who has not confronted his own inner conflict cannot project unified power outward. He is always leaking energy, always managing internal contradictions instead of conquering external ones. Think about that for a moment. Every time you tell yourself you want one thing and then act toward another, you are not just wasting time. You are training your own nervous system to distrust you. Your subconscious begins to understand that your decisions don't mean anything, that your commitments are negotiable, that you can be bargained with. And once your own mind stops believing in you, the world doesn't stand a chance of believing in you either. The general doesn't operate like this. The general has one objective. Everything else is noise. He doesn't hold daily debates with himself about whether the mission matters. The mission is decided. The conversation is over. All that remains is execution. You need to close the internal debate, not suppress it, not pretend the fear doesn't exist, but face it fully. Integrate it and then subordinate it to a decision that is final. A decision made at the bone level. A decision the universe cannot argue with because you are no longer arguing with yourself. That is where the dangerous focus begins. There is a difference between a preference and a decision. Most men walk around with preferences. They prefer to be successful. They prefer to be disciplined. They prefer to build something that matters. A preference is a wish. A preference dissolves under pressure. A preference negotiates with comfort and almost always loses. A decision is different. A real decision, the kind generals make, is irreversible at the psychological level. Something closes. A door shuts behind you. You are no longer the man who might do it. You are the man who is doing it, and there is no version of reality in which you are not. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, it wasn't just a military maneuver. It was a psychological declaration. There was no retreat. The army knew it. Caesar knew it. And that knowing changed how every soldier fought, because a man who cannot retreat fights differently than a man who can. He fights with a precision born of necessity. He fights as if his life depends on it, because it does. You need to cross your own Rubicon, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, now. Carl Jung wrote that until a man makes the unconscious conscious, it will direct his life, and he will call it fate. Read that again. The unfocused man calls his stagnation bad luck. He calls his lack of results the economy, the timing, the people around him. But Jung would tell you the truth that cuts. Your outer world is a projection of your inner state. The chaos outside is a mirror of the war inside. When you make a real decision, not a hope, not a vision board, but a decision, something neurological shifts. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters what you notice, begins scanning for opportunities aligned with your commitment, instead of threats that confirm your fear. You start seeing the path, not because the path appeared, because you finally have eyes calibrated to find it. This is not mysticism. This is how the human brain works when it has a clear directive. The general gives his brain a clear directive. He doesn't say, "I'd like to win this battle." He says, "We will take that hill by 0600, and here is how." The brain, given a specific instruction and a deadline, begins solving the problem around the clock, including while you sleep. Vague intentions produce vague results. Precise commitments produce precise action. Make the decision. Make it now. Make it irrevocable. And then watch what your own mind begins doing in service of that decision. Focus is not what most men think it is. Most men think focus is the ability to sit down and not get distracted for an hour. That is concentration. That is a tactic. Focus, real focus, the kind that builds empires, is architectural. It is a structure you build your entire life around so that distraction doesn't even reach you. Let's break down what that structure looks like. First, a singular objective. The focused man has one main mission, not 7. Not a list of goals spread across 5 categories of life. One North Star that everything else orbits around. This doesn't mean you neglect your health or your relationships. It means you have clarity about what you are building, and everything, every decision, every hour, every relationship either serves that mission or it gets honest examination before it gets your energy. What is your one thing? Not your 5 things. Your one thing. If you cannot answer that in 10 seconds, you are not focused. You are scattered with a calendar. Second, elimination, not management. Amateur men try to manage distractions. They build elaborate systems to handle interruptions, notifications, social media. They add productivity apps to their phones as if the problem is the tool and not the fundamental absence of a decided life. The general doesn't manage the noise. He eliminates it. He controls the environment. He controls access. He structures the battlefield before the battle begins. You do not have a discipline problem. You have an environment problem. Put the phone in another room. Remove the apps. Cut the relationships that drain without building. Stop attending events that have nothing to do with where you are going. Elimination is not extreme. Elimination is engineering. Third, compounding time blocks. Carl Jung is a man of extraordinary intellectual output, producing some of the most complex psychological literature in human history, understood the power of protected time. He famously retreated to his tower in Bollingen, a stone structure with no electricity, to think deeply without the intrusion of the modern world. He understood that genius is not produced in fragments. Depth requires duration. You need blocks of time where you go so deep into your work that you forget who you are momentarily, where the clock disappears, where what you produce in 4 hours exceeds what most men produce in 4 weeks of fragmented effort. These blocks are not negotiable. They are sacred. You schedule them first. Everything else fits around them. Fourth, the elimination of optionality. The focused man removes options, not because he is rigid, but because he understands that every open option is a small tax on his mental energy. When you have already decided, you don't spend energy deciding again. When your morning routine is fixed, you don't debate it. When your mission is clear, you don't reevaluate it every time the road gets hard. Options feel like freedom, but too many options are the architecture of the unfocused life. The general narrows, the focused man narrows, and in that narrowing, power concentrates. Here is the part most motivation content skips because it is uncomfortable. Your lack of focus is not purely a productivity problem, it is a psychological one, and it has roots you have not examined. Every man carries within him what Carl Jung called the shadow, the parts of himself that he has suppressed, denied, or buried because they felt unacceptable. The anger he was told to swallow, the ambition he was told was arrogance, the hunger he was told was greed, the desire to dominate his field that he was shamed into calling not that important. When you suppress these parts of yourself, they don't disappear. They go underground, and underground they become saboteurs. They become the voice that tells you to check your phone instead of finishing the work, the impulse that sends you toward entertainment the moment the work gets hard, the sudden fatigue that hits exactly when you are 30 minutes into something that matters. This is the shadow operating, and it will continue to operate until you face it directly. Jung did not say to kill the shadow. He said to integrate it, to look it in the face and say, "I see you. I understand where you came from, and I'm no longer going to let you run my life from the basement." The man who has integrated his shadow becomes dangerous because he is no longer at war with himself. His anger becomes drive. His hunger becomes relentless work ethic. His desire to dominate becomes mastery. Every suppressed quality that was costing him energy now serves him. You need to ask yourself, what am I running from? Not in a therapist's office way. In a warrior's way. What is the real reason I don't sit down and do the deep work? What am I afraid will happen if I actually succeed? What would it cost me in comfort, in relationships, in identity, to become the man I say I want to become? These are not soft questions. These are the questions that separate the men who break through from the men who spend a lifetime almost breaking through. The unfocused man is afraid of his own power. He has seen glimpses of what he is capable of, and it frightened him because power carries responsibility and responsibility cannot be avoided. So he stays small. He stays distracted. He stays in the comfortable middle where he never fully fails, but never fully arrives. You are not that man, or you are choosing to stop being that man, starting now. Face the shadow. Name what you are afraid of. Write it down. Say it out loud, and then make the decision that you are going to build anyway. Not because you are no longer afraid, but because the mission is bigger than the fear. That is the mindset that generals carry into battle. You have been sold a lie about discipline. The lie is that discipline is something you force yourself to do, that it is the painful override of your natural instincts, that it requires enormous willpower every single day. And if you don't have that willpower, you are fundamentally broken. That is not what discipline is in the mind of a man who has actually mastered it. Discipline at its highest level is identity. It is not what you do, it is who you are. When you are fully committed to a mission, the actions that serve that mission don't feel like discipline. They feel like being yourself. The athlete who is fully identified as an athlete doesn't fight himself to go to training. It would feel stranger not to go. The writer who has fully identified as a writer doesn't bargain with himself about whether to write today. Writing is what he does. It's what he is. The transition from forced discipline to identity-based discipline is the transition from amateur to professional, and it happens at the moment of full commitment, that Rubicon moment, not gradually over time. Ask yourself right now, do you identify as the man you are trying to become? Not hope to become, not working toward. Do you already see yourself as him? Do you make decisions from that identity? Because if you are still living from your old identity, the one that hasn't achieved what you want, then every action will feel like a fight. But the moment you step fully into the identity of the man you are becoming, the actions reorganize themselves around that identity. The late nights don't feel like sacrifice. They feel like expression. Carl Jung's entire body of work was built on one central insight. The goal of psychological development is individuation, becoming fully, completely, unapologetically yourself. Not the self your parents approved of, not the self society rewarded, your actual self, the self you were built to be. When you align your daily discipline with that true self, resistance collapses. You are no longer forcing yourself to do things. You are finally doing the things you were meant to do. And a man doing what he was built for is not tired at the end of the day. He is alive. Every man reading this has a version of the life he wants, clearly visible in his mind. He can see it. The business, the level of mastery, the respect, the freedom, the man he would be if he had built it. That image is real. It is not fantasy. It is a signal from your own psyche about what you are capable of. Between you and that image stands one enemy, not your competition, not the economy, not the timing or the lack of connections or the absence of capital. One enemy, comfort. Comfort is the most seductive force in a man's life because it is always justified. It whispers reasonable things. You worked hard today. You deserve to rest. You'll start fresh on Monday. It's not the right time. One more episode won't hurt. Comfort never sounds like surrender. It always sounds like wisdom. But comfort is a thief that steals from you in the night, and you wake up years later wondering why you're still in the same place. The general does not optimize for comfort. He optimizes for mission. He sleeps when the mission allows it. He eats what the mission requires. He rests in preparation for the next push, not as an escape from the current one. Every resource, including rest, is allocated in service of the objective. This is not about destroying yourself. Recovery matters. Sleep matters. Renewal matters. But the distinction is this: the focused man rests with intention. He recovers in order to return stronger. He does not use rest as an excuse to not begin. You need to develop a relationship with discomfort that most men don't have, not a masochistic one, a functional one. You need to understand that discomfort is information. It is telling you that you are at the edge of your current capacity, which is exactly where growth happens. The moment it gets hard is not the moment to stop. It is the moment to notice, this is where others quit. This is where I separate. Every rep past failure builds the muscle. Every paragraph past resistance builds the book. Every day past the point where you wanted to quit builds the man. Comfort didn't build anything that lasted. Hunger did. The battle for focus is not won once. It is won daily. And the man who understands this stops waiting for motivation and starts building systems. Motivation is a visitor. It comes when it wants, stays as long as it feels like, and leaves without notice. If you wait for motivation to begin, you will spend your life waiting. The focused man does not wait. He has built a structure that produces action regardless of how he feels. Here's what that structure looks like practically. Your morning is not negotiable. The first hour of your day belongs entirely to your mission. Before the world gets its hands on you, before the inbox, before the notifications, before anyone needs anything from you. That first hour, spent in deep work, in preparation, in the craft, sets the trajectory of everything that follows. Your physical body is a weapon, and you maintain it accordingly. You train, not to look good, to maintain the mental edge that physical vigor produces. Jung himself recognized the deep connection between the body's vitality and the mind's clarity. A weak body produces a negotiating mind. A trained body produces a decisive one. You end each day with an honest accounting, not self-punishment, not self-congratulation. An honest look at what you executed, what you avoided, and what tomorrow must correct. The general debriefs after every engagement. He does not pretend bad strategy was good strategy. He adjusts and advances. And finally, you protect your inner world fiercely. What you consume mentally shapes what you produce. The man who fills his mind with noise, outrage, and other people's emergencies will produce noise. The man who fills his mind with depth, strategy, and the accumulated wisdom of those who came before, including the brutal honesty Carl Jung brought to human psychology, will produce depth. You win the daily war by winning the morning. You win the morning by deciding who you are the night before. Identity first, actions follow. There is a version of you that exists on the other side of this decision, not a fantasy version. A man who woke up one day and decided that the divided life was finished, that the excuses had run out, that comfort had taken enough, that the mission was too important to keep compromising. That man is different in ways that are difficult to articulate until you see it in someone. He is calmer than ambitious men usually are, because he is not scrambling. He knows where he is going. He is more dangerous in every room he enters, not because he is aggressive, but because he has no internal conflict leaking outward. His energy is concentrated. His attention is full. He does not need external validation, because his validation comes from the work itself, from the compounding evidence that he said he would do something, and he did it. Every kept commitment to himself built a wall of self-trust that now makes him impervious to the kind of doubt that destroys ordinary men. Carl Jung called this the individuated man, the one who has done the hard internal work, faced the shadow, integrated the fractured parts, and emerged whole, not perfect, whole. The man who is fully himself is a man who cannot be manipulated by the world's noise, because he knows exactly who he is and why he is here. That man is available to you. He is not a different species. He is not luckier or more talented. He simply made a decision you haven't made yet, or have made, but need to make again, today, right now. He is who you become when you stop dividing your focus and start pouring it into one direction with everything you have. This is the moment, not next week, not after the next setback teaches you one more lesson. Now. You already know enough. You have known for a long time. What you have lacked is not information. It is the final, irreversible commitment to stop living in the middle. Carl Jung spent a lifetime proving that the greatest war any man will ever fight is the one inside himself. Win that war, and the external world reorganizes around your victory. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop offering comfort a seat at the table. Become dangerously focused. The world has been waiting for the man you actually are.